Hello and welcome. We are really excited to have you here today for our Which Industry is Right for You webinar. We are really thrilled that you're choosing to spend part of your Friday with us. We hope this is the beginning of a great weekend for all of you. So we are excited and we're going to go ahead and get started. If I can, there we go. My name is Ashley Lotzenizer. I'm the Associate Director of Graduate Programs Admissions here at the Olin Business School at WashU. And I am also joined by a colleague this morning. Jessica, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jessica Voss. I am also an Associate Director of Graduate Program Admissions here in the Graduate Programs Office at Olin Business School, and I'll kind of roll us into the next section here. So before we jump too far into our session, we just want to let you know that you have all been muted just so we can reduce background noise. That doesn't mean we don't like to hear from you, though. So if you are having difficulty hearing from us, please use the raise your hand function or send us a message. And please make sure to send your questions into the Q&A function throughout the session. We will address questions at the end, and we do love to hear from you and have these webinars be interactive. So please make sure that you're putting in your questions there. Let's talk a little bit about the programs that we do have. As you search for the right industry, you might be looking for what program aligns with what industry you want to do. We have program offerings in our MBA program. So we have a full-time offering, a professional MBA, as well as an executive MBA. We have a Master of Accounting program. Within the Master of Accounting, there is the Master of Accounting track, as well as the Masters of Accounting Research, which is more of a PhD track prep. That program, both of them are 3 semesters long. We also have a MS in Supply Chain Management program. This is one of our STEM designated programs, very focused in logistics and how we get those goods from point A to point B. Supply chains are very important in businesses, especially when it comes to cost and things like that. Very excited to talk about our MS in Business Analytics program. You might notice, some of you, if you've done your research, that it's changed to Business Analytics, and we are expanding that program. It's also one of our STEM designated programs, and that program now will have 4 track options. So every program you will get a degree in analytics, but there is an option to take electives of one of 4 tracks. That will be healthcare analytics, supply chain analytics, customer analytics, and financial technology analytics. So offering you the ability to specialize in an area within analytics. We have our program in MS in Finance. Again, track options here that allow you to specialize in the skills that you want to learn. So all of our finance programs will prepare you in valuation and financial statement analysis. But you might want to specialize in corporate finance. So we have the MS in Corporate Finance. We have the MS in Wealth and Asset Management. And then we also have our 3rd STEM designated program, which is the MS in Quantitative Finance. And then if you're looking for a global experience, we have our Global Master of Finance program that has partnerships around the globe, including Yonsei, IDC in Israel, WHU in Germany, UPF in Spain, and SMU, Singapore Management University in the lovely Singapore. Outside of that, our full-time program has a nice partnership with a class that you'll do an immersion at Brookings, as well as our global finance program doing an immersion course at Brookings as well in Washington, D.C. And then we have executive partnerships with Fudan and IIM in Bombay, or IIT in Bombay. So those are all the program offerings we have. But what does it mean to be a student here?
Absolutely. So there are certainly a few hallmarks of an Olin experience. Regardless of which program that you're in, there's a number of things that you will certainly participate in. One is absolutely student clubs. And student clubs, like this picture is demonstrating, could certainly be cultural organizations. They might be social organizations. They could also be related to your area of interest. So a number of student organizations surrounding maybe your industry of interest or your function of interest. So student organizations and student clubs are a great way to inform what career path you may be interested in pursuing, and also getting the opportunity to pursue outside of the classroom experiences in that certain career field. Also, engagement with faculty. This is really important. Faculty members that have done extensive research in an industry are great and wonderfully informative about what's going on in that industry. Also, we have faculty members that come from industry themselves, and certainly they're there to share their experiences and knowledge about those particular industries and help you understand what might be a good fit. Social events, absolutely, we do like to have fun here at Olin. This picture is some wonderful members of the WCC team, and then also our dean, Mark Taylor. So certainly we do like to have a good time. So I will say, usually the purpose of social events is to have fun. Of course, networking as well. But really, I'll say that there's obviously both a lot of work and play taking place at Olin. Networking, certainly getting to know the people that are not only in your program, but in all the programs here at Olin, getting a chance to expand your network and understanding people that work in other industries and have had experience in other industries as well. The final piece being community impact. Social impact is very important for our students here at Olin. We hope that you take the opportunity to have an impact on your peers, have an impact on St. Louis, have an impact on the global community as well. Really think about the skills that you're gaining as a business professional and how you'd be able to use those for good and for change in the broader world. I'll also mention during your experience here at Olin, you'll have the opportunity to participate and hear from industry speakers. So this is kind of a snapshot of some industry speakers we've had in different areas that they've covered. So basically, almost no matter what you're interested in going into, regardless of industry or function, we'll bring speakers to campus. One is through the platform industry speaker. So depending on, say you're looking at something like finance, an opportunity to hear from people that work in finance. But we also have a number of symposiums and events that bring speakers to campus. So we have a sports business summit. We're also having one, I just saw an advertisement for a more food industry related summit. So bringing in both local and international people who work in the food industry to come and speak at Olin as well. So a number of different ways that you can get exposure. So if you're not quite sure about all the possibilities that exist, we absolutely can help expose you to those as well. Now, Jessica and I wanted to just give you that little brief snapshot, but we also have an absolute expert with us. So we're very pleased today to have Karen with us, and I'll have Karen introduce herself, but I'll first say that Karen is really a rock star here at Olin. She's a pillar of the Olin community and definitely someone that our students love, and our staff loves too, obviously. If you can't tell, we love her. But she's absolutely the expert. She's gonna share with you a little bit about herself and the WCC. So Karen, I'll let you take it away.
Great. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. I'm Karen Heiss. I am the interim director of the Weston Career Center. This is probably a great example of how we work very closely with the programs office and our students and clubs that were just mentioned. But I've been with Olin for about 14 years. I've been a career advisor. I've done education for our program, and I also am doing employer relations. So my role is actually pretty holistic around anything related to students, and obviously they are the most important thing for us in how we operate. If we can move to the next slide. Let me spotlight our team. So this is actually not even our entire team. We have an employer relations team that is market facing and works with employers to woo them and tell them about our great students and bring them to campus. But what you see here is our advising team, and these are professionals who have, you can see, such a range of backgrounds that is intentional on our part, so that depending on what you're exploring or where you might really want some expertise, our team has depth of industries and functions. We've all worked in kind of before we got to Olin in some area, and we bring all of that expertise to our students. So we actually operate sort of like a triage group. We get to know each student individually. We do not force you to work with any certain advisors. Many students will interact with a variety of advisors depending on what they're trying to do and what they're interested in. But really, you can just see from this slide the breadth of experience and expertise that basically are a part of our team that is available to all of our students. We actually serve undergraduates and graduate students and alumni, so we are resources for life is what we call it for our Olin community, which is a pretty wonderful thing, and we find it pretty special because I'm actually working with 2 alums right now who are in transition job-wise, and we are great resources for them as well. But anyway, I'm obviously very proud of our team and happy to show them off to you because they're all here to serve our students. So let me spotlight a few things. Probably the most important things here I would point out are that we focus on your exploration enjoying things that are available to you, practicing your skills, and then refining those skills. We really work through from kind of the exploration phase of a student and what you're thinking about doing, all the way through offer evaluation, offer negotiation, and even onboarding, and how you can make the most of an onboarding experience, whether it's an internship or a full-time opportunity. So obviously part of the purpose of this webinar is to share with you that we want you to explore. We want you to take a look at the range of industries and functions that are part of our programs and part of what we offer here at Olin. There's a lot of different activities and ways to engage. On any given day, there are employers in the building, there are students networking with them. There's actually 2 events going on right now this morning, a healthcare analytics session and the sports business summit. That's probably a pretty good example of ways our students can refine their skills. But our team brings a lot of employers to campus so that you can network with them, so that you can do informational interviews with alumni, so you can practice your pitch and your communication skills and really explore the market and then zero in on some of the things that you're most interested to do. We also you might go to the next slide if you don't mind. We help our students with deliverables, the things that are market facing, that demonstrate what you have to offer the market. So we are very expert. I actually was a recruiter at Ernst & Young before Olin, so I'm pretty expert in resumes and cover letters because I used to read and review them for a living. I think that's helpful for our students, but we help our students with some of those things that really can refine what you're selling to the market and how you're communicating with them, whether it's the LinkedIn profile or how you're interviewing and really selling yourself while you're gaining and interviewing in a setting. We also actually have pretty deep expertise around the different types of interviews. You may have heard around case interviews, technical interviews, behavioral interviews, even the not so common anymore, the puzzler interviews, how many ping pong balls can I fit into a Boeing 757 airplane? But we try to help every student be ready for any interview that they're going to experience. And different industries or functions have different types of interviews, and it changes. So our ability to help market intelligence that we're gaining get woven into the preparation of the students is really, really important. One of our employers actually has adjusted their interviews that they're doing next week, and they're going to include a video, an Excel analysis, and a PowerPoint where the student then presents to the interviewer later in the day. So we have understood that from the employer. We've told the students who are on the interview schedule, so they're going to be ready to rock and roll. That's probably a really good example of how we're trying to make sure whatever we know is going on in the market is part of what we're doing to prepare our students for success. And the career guide that is actually spotlighted there, I would point to on our website on olincareers.com. We have a wealth of information that is at your fingertips, whether you're prospective or student or alumni, but I would encourage you to take a look at this career guide. It really gives you the breadth of what we offer, and we've actually had other schools ask us, can we buy it from you? Do you sell it? Because it is so rich in content and expertise that I think you'll find it really interesting. So I'd strongly encourage you to take a look at that. So we also, and this is actually a view of our website where there is a wealth of research resources. We actually invest in, we invest significantly in online resources for our students. Many of these, most of these are not free. These are significant investments so that our students can have access to whether it's job databases or resources for research or ways to find alumni. It's very significant on our part so that the resources are not only rich, but also at your fingertips, because we realize we need to meet the students where they are. You might get your second wind at 1 a.m. in the morning and you want to go diving into some research on the website. So these things are available at all times, and they're very, very, very helpful. They help a student from the beginning of their experience, where you might be exploring and looking through vault guides or wet feet oasis, all the way through evaluating an offer and what are the things that are most important in doing so. So hopefully you'll see the breadth of all of those things as a student for sure. And then I would be remiss not to point to our employment report, which actually is hot off the press. We literally have just buttoned up the class of 2017. So this would be a great resource for you also. It's not light reading. It's, a trifold, and it's actually really, really interesting, and it helps all of us, our employers also, to know, what's the value of our students. There are compensation ranges in this report. There are geographic breakdowns for where our students land, and we're seeing some trends around coastal landings or outside the U.S. opportunities. So we're trying to play to some of the shifts in the market, whether it's by industry or around global growth. The employment stats I would encourage you to take a look at as well. But certainly we actually encourage our students to use this, and it's actually a useful tool when a student is looking at an employment opportunity and what their offer is and whether they might negotiate an offer or not, because it's very great market intelligence that is fact-based. So it's very, very great resource for everyone.
Awesome. And Karen, I know we have quite a few students that when they are talking to us and they're looking at potentially maybe changing industries, they're doing some informational interviews. So maybe they're utilizing their LinkedIn network, or they're utilizing their other networks to meet people that might be working in the industry that they're targeting. Do you have any tips for successfully doing informational interviews?
I do. That's a great question. I would say first, don't be afraid of them, because it's really just getting to know each other, and you're giving while you're getting when you're interacting with someone for an informational interview. But many of them are really just for exploration. First, you got to find someone to do it with, and that, our students start with the internal community. They will, our first years are talking to the second years. But LinkedIn is a great resource for all of us to connect with an alum. I connect with non-alums even on LinkedIn to kind of penetrate a new industry or a new company. But I would say the best practice would be find people across different areas, different functions, or different industries, so you can get perspectives from people that are actually out there doing the types of work. Oil and gas is very different than iBanking. So you have to talk to several people across different industries or functions to really get the flavor of what is so different and unique. And that's really helpful to know where you might fit best and what you find most interesting and why. So LinkedIn's a great resource. Our team's a great resource. We're always helping students find alumni or each other to do those informational interviews. But it's really have great questions, be curious, and build a relationship out of it would be the best practices I would share.
Great, thanks, Karen. I know also Jessica and I will make a plug for our ambassador program. So we have on our website an Ask a Student page. And right now it is just our second year students. Our first year students are still just getting settled in. So we will actually have them up on the website shortly. So you'll have a large number of students that you're absolutely welcome to contact. If you have questions about how maybe they chose their industry or their motivations for attending a master's or MBA program. So certainly utilize that resource as well. We're happy to share them and let them share their insights about their motivations, and certainly be a resource for you to expand your network as well. We did want to change gears a little bit and talk about kind of within the application itself, the areas in which you will have the opportunity to speak about what your plans might look like and what your ambitions look like. So within the application, obviously there are a number of required components that you'll be submitting. When it comes to telling us about your goals and your interests, which industry and which function you might be looking at, there's two primary areas that you'll do that within the application itself, the essay and also the resume. So your resume is certainly important for us to get an idea of your background. And as Karen mentioned, there's quite a few resources that are available on the Olin Careers website to external viewers. And so certainly if you're not quite sure how to format a resume, that's a great place to look. If you want to know some good tips, certainly go to that website. Make sure that your resume is absolutely a polished, wonderful piece of work. And absolutely, that's where we'll get an idea of your background. So what sort of experiences do you already have? And then within the essay and also the short answer component of the application, you'll have the opportunity to tell us about what your goals are, what industry you might be interested in. Tell us a bit more about yourself and your motivations. So those are two components of the application where you absolutely will get the opportunity to demonstrate the research and the homework that you've done about your potential industry. We'll also mention that within the application, there is potentially an interview, and certainly within an interview, you will be asked about why you're interested in your chosen field. So if you're, for example, applying to one of our specialized master's programs, why is it that you're interested in quantitative finance? Be prepared to answer questions of that nature. Also, if you're, for example, interested in the MBA program and you indicate an interest potentially in the consulting platform, we're going to likely ask you about why you're interested in consulting, why you think this is a good fit for you. And we'll ask you some questions that will allow you to demonstrate that you've done homework about that industry and those industry trends. So certainly taking advantage of the resources that we've spoken about, really that Karen has spoken about, to demonstrate those that homework that you've been doing as well. I also want to put a reminder in about the application deadlines. So we do have 4 application deadlines for fall of 2018. So if you're applying for a fall 2018 START program, there are 4 deadlines available to you. If you're applying for our spring 2018 PMBA program, our professional MBA program that starts in the spring, those first 2 deadlines are applicable to you. Otherwise, I imagine most of you are looking at fall of 2018 programs, so I do want to remind you of those 4 deadlines. If you are an international student, so you are not a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, we ask that you apply prior to or on our February 1st deadline. So if you're an international student, we do ask that you apply within the first 3 deadlines that we offer. After the 4th deadline, we do move into rolling admission, but certainly we would recommend that you apply within one of those 4 deadlines.
All right, so you want to attend a sample class, you want to talk more to our career services team, that team that Karen introduced us to. Our first big event here on campus is just this next Saturday for Preview Day. It's October 7th. It will start at 9:30 a.m. We will have a sample class taught by our faculty. There will be sessions on, further refining that application as well as each of our programs. So you can learn more about, if you're interested in the MBA program or the professional MBA program or one of our specialized master's programs, our team will be there to conduct sessions on each of those. You can go on our website and register for the day, and that link is available there, and we would love to see you on campus. What are you going to do next? What are the best next steps that you're interested, you're looking at making that industry change, or you have more questions? Connect with us. I said earlier, we like to hear from you, and we certainly do. So email us at olingradadmissions@wusl.edu, and we can connect you with one of our recruiters to make sure to get your questions answered. Ashley mentioned connecting with our student ambassadors. They are a great resource. They have been in your shoes. They are working with our teams here. They are making those transitions. They have prepared. They've done the research. They've listened to the industry speakers. So they are a great resource to talk to about the experience and just answer your questions. So please reach out to them. Our new ambassadors will be up on the site very soon. And then also prepare your application. It's open. The first deadline is next week. So prepare your application and click submit. That's the first step.
Wonderful. So we do want to have the opportunity to take some questions, and we do want to keep the questions kind of centered around finding the right career fit, finding the right industry, questions kind of related to that. So if you have any questions, please type them into the chat box. If we don't get to your question, please follow up with an email. I've listed the Olin Grad Admissions email here on the bottom. And again, since we have Karen here with us, we want to make sure that our questions are kind of relevant to the career search and to the industry fit. So as I mentioned, we'll be taking questions kind of centered around those. So feel free to go ahead and put those in the chat box. You could also put them in the Q&A box, but you could also put them in the chat box depending on which box, I guess, is easier for you to get to. There is a question that students asking about whether or not an internship is a part of the MSFQ program. So maybe just if you just speak briefly about kind of the format, maybe of some of the 3 versus 2 semester S&P programs, and then maybe we'll turn it over to Karen to talk about just internships generally and what role they play.
Awesome. So yeah, any of our 3 semester programs like the MSFQ program. So how that's formatted is it's formatted over the fall, the spring, and then you come back for the fall semester, leaving that summer for the potential to pursue a internship. There are some embedded practicum opportunities within the program as well. So you do get a chance to apply what you're learning in the classroom throughout the time while you're in the program. But certainly most of our students do pursue an internship during that summer semester. So Karen, what's that process like?
Sure. And actually the MSFQ students were taking to New York and Boston in about a week as part of their exploration and job search. So we actually do treks and road shows where we go out into the market with our groups of students. But the process is, one of the trends we're seeing is that the internship is so important, and employers are trying to use the internship to convert that person into a full-time offer. So it means your recruiting process is sooner, but it means the internship is even more important. But really we try to, we have the same approach for full-time or internship search, but it's, let me mention our career action plan for, all students. We start early, so you kind of do a self-assessment. What are you interested in? What are you good at? Why? And then we look at the market. What is going on in the market? Where might you fit? And then we also try to figure out what are your goals around an internship. It should fit towards the full-time search. What can an internship do to complement your full-time search, particularly because they're so important to the employers to convert to full-time. And then based on what you're trying to do with an internship and what that experience might look like, many students will find an internship that fills a gap. It's experience they haven't yet touched, or it's an industry they're hoping to get into at full-time. So the gap analysis we will do to try to figure out how can the internship complement what you already have or accelerate you through what you already offer based on experience. And then we'll put a personal marketing plan together with you, which is how are you going to market yourself into an internship based on the employment base and who you're targeting. Some employers, the internships are very obvious, some are not, some are hidden, some are, you have to find them. So a lot of research and uncovering internship opportunities. We've actually had students create internship opportunities for themselves. So being really resourceful and being entrepreneurial, you might find an internship in an opportunity or in a firm that doesn't even know or have an internship program, but being very resourceful, our students have been able to create them for themselves. So we'll help you, to do that as well. But the internship recruiting actually starts in the fall. So that's why we're taking our MSFQ students to Boston and New York like in 2 weeks, because the employers are trying to find students that they would have next summer in their organization and then hire them full-time after they graduate the following December or the following May. So hopefully that gives some flavor to the internship, how we approach it with the students, and how the market is looking for the internship candidates. It's really in the fall semester is when internship recruiting is certainly happening very heavily.
Great. Karen, there's a couple of questions here, people interested in consulting. I know that in the past couple of years it has been very popular on the MBA side. Yeah. Obviously it's also a very competitive industry to get into. Do you have any kind of general tips for people that might be looking at consulting?
I do, and actually I came from consulting and worked closely with the consulting platform and Dan Elfenbein and the club. I would say case interview prep comes to mind. What we hear the employers in consulting tell us is look at our websites. Go to the websites of our companies. There are so many, but you can, research, top 100 consulting firms and, kind of dive into a group of firms. Go to their websites to really understand what they do. Generally, they do similar things, but each firm is very different in how they deploy staff and how they have a book of business across industries. But for a student, I would say research consulting as much as you can, start talking to people in consulting, or find a consulting student when you're here for preview weekend. That would be a great thing to do. So you start plugging into folks that are doing it or have an expertise in it. I think Gary Musto, one of our advisors who's in consulting, will be here for one of the preview weekends and upcoming admissions events. But I would say go to the websites of the companies and learn what they do and get really, really knowledgeable, and think about how you're going to start practicing case interviews sooner versus later. That's always going to help you, even if you don't land in consulting. The websites of companies like Bain and McKinsey and Deloitte, they actually have case interviews on their websites. So it's right in front of us. They're trying to help us to refine our skills and start practicing them. But the websites of the companies would be a really great resource to start looking at.
Now, Karen, I know you, someone was asking about employers coming to campus, and I know September is a busy time for the WCC, right?
We just had 94 companies on campus.
94, oh my gosh. So we know they certainly come to campus, and they do interviews, they do obviously come here for events, things of that nature, and I know your team helps also kind of prep for that. So absolutely to answer the question about whether or not candidates or companies come to campus, the answer is certainly yes. The WCC hosts Meet the Firms twice in September, which is a huge event to bring our wonderful employers to campus. Absolutely. There was also a question about MBA platforms, so whether or not it's required and kind of if it's still deciding. We mentioned the platform industry speakers, which are open to our MBA students as well as students outside of the MBA program as well. It's a chance to hear from people that work in that particular industry. Certainly from our perspective, we do ask in the application about which platform you're interested in pursuing. As Karen mentioned, the timeline for things like internships are very fast for the MBA program, and so we want to make sure we're kind of putting you in the right direction, and the WCC, even before you arrive on campus, reaches out to our incoming students to work with them. So when you do set foot on campus for that first day, you're already ready to hit the ground running, you're ready to be meeting with the WCC, you're ready to be kind of in front of employers and networking, things of that nature. So certainly in the application, it's important that you've done your homework there as well. But Karen, might you be able to speak to a little bit about how maybe a platform might help a student in the career search, or what that might mean to an employer? Yeah,
and each of the platforms, I would encourage you to participate in a platform or two, probably no more than two. but they are, we've actually asked employers how important are the platforms, and they're very important. Being in a platform, being in a club that aligns to a platform, the employers care about and they look for in the candidate. But I would say the platforms each provide students a lot of information around the breadth of the function. So, finance is pretty broad. Consulting is very broad. There's internal consulting, there's healthcare consulting, there's strategy, there's big, there's small, there's mid-range, there's global. So the platforms start in the first couple of sessions by having guests just talk about consulting or finance kind of at a broad level. But the speaker series gives you a flavor across different types of opportunities in that function, whether it's finance or supply chain. So the platforms not only educate and give you kind of the breadth across things in that function, but they also put you in touch with people that are out there doing it. So we have alums in each platform come back, talk about their business. We actually just had one in consulting and 5 alums were here, and that's a great thing for the students to then connect with those individuals. And sometimes the students connect with those alums who are in the speaker series, and they use that alum connection maybe not necessarily to be in the firm the alum is in, but the alum has a breadth of experience having been here before and having interviewed a lot, and they have a lot of connections. So the platforms are a really great way to just plug in to a function or industry and the network that's out there as part of the exploration. Or once you start zeroing in on a specific area you're interested in, then you can refine it even further. But it's great networking, great education, and I would strongly encourage being in a platform.
Awesome. There's also a question about being in the city of St. Louis and how that might affect candidates' job search. And obviously, we were just talking before the webinar started about the number of our students that are now employed on the coasts.
Yes.
But Karen, would you speak to kind of our location in St. Louis and kind of the influence that has over students and over employers?
I would, well, it's a great question. I would keep in mind that a lot of the recruiting process is virtual. And we actually bring a lot of employers to campus from outside of St. Louis. I would say first and foremost, the St. Louis community has such a range of employers and diverse industries and functions. You can learn a lot just from the people that are in the market locally. But our recruiters, Amazon's a great example, who recruits virtually from the West Coast. And I would not consider the geography a barrier. I would take advantage of the folks that are here in St. Louis when they are here, but we have employers come from outside of St. Louis to recruit here. So I don't think that our location is really a problem. It's more you got to figure out how you're going to take advantage of what's locally here in physicality, but also do some virtual networking and virtual, like what we're doing right now, like a webinar. You know, the technology that we have at our fingertips, firms like Google are using those technologies. They have a Google Docs and Google Communities, and that's how they recruit. So we've got a lot of really interesting firms here in St. Louis and great alums as well. So I think it's a good thing.
Wonderful. And then there's also a question about someone who might be either looking to start their own business or maybe more entrepreneurial. What sort of resources does the WCC have for someone who's maybe an entrepreneur?
Yeah, well, actually, one of our advisors actually has 2 businesses of her own that she has just started recently. But we think, well, we can all speak to entrepreneurial capabilities or traits or skills that are relevant actually whether you're starting your own business or not, because our employers like that entrepreneurial spirit. It's one of the things Olin and WashU has as one of our our brand features, that everybody's pretty entrepreneurial here. But whether it's in the classroom where the platform for entrepreneurship and classes around business planning and things that help you to create your own business are very valuable. Our team has entrepreneurs as practitioners in our group, and we also have alumni who have started their own businesses that we know what they do and who they are. I'll be in New York in a few weeks with several of our alums who have their own businesses. So the network's pretty strong in that area, and obviously the curriculum is as well.
And what about somebody who might want to work for something like a nonprofit or maybe a community organization, maybe something that is a little more, I'll say, non-traditional?
Well, and that's a great question too. Our affiliation with the Brown School of Social Work is really strong. So we actually share our network with them. So that helps our students to find opportunities that may or may not be in our line of sight. But we do have firms like CCS Fundraising out of Chicago or Third Plateau on the West Coast, who are nonprofit-oriented businesses. Our book of business in that area is smaller than for-profit firms, but the School of Social Work has a huge book of business, and they know where all the nonprofit organizations are. So our preparation and helping you connect is not just in Olin; it's across WashU, and that's another great strength of us as a university, where we have a very great med school, a very great social work school, very great law school. And those resources are part of what our students tap into as well. We encourage that. We actually are trying to do even more of that strategically. So it's a great opportunity for our students and for us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen. I know there's still a lot of questions out there, but we definitely want to make sure that you all get started or ended with your Friday, depending on what time it is. There were certainly a lot of questions also that were more admissions related. So feel free, as I said, if you do have an admissions related or an application related question, to send it on to our general inbox. We'll be happy to take care of those. I want to thank Karen once again for spending time with us today. She is certainly an expert as she ran down her credentials. She has, I think, seen and done it all, and is definitely an important part of the Olin community. I want to thank you all today for spending part of your Friday with us. We certainly hope to see you maybe at our preview day. We hope to see your application, and please reach out if you have any other questions. We're more than happy to help, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.